Like most Adobe software, there are preferences that you can go into and adjust in After Effects, and this can affect a wide range of options. There's different sections that can affect how your RAM is used, the audio hardware connected to your computer, how things are labeled, color-coded, and so on. So you have a lot of options here, and I'm just going to touch on some of these just so you know where it's all at in the event you need to go in and make some changes. So what you'll need to do first, if you're on a Mac, is go up to After Effects, Preferences, and then General. If you're on Windows, you'll find the preferences under Edit. So once you find your preferences, go ahead and go to General. Now first, as you can see, we have a lot of general options we can cover. Everything from showing tooltips to create layers at composition start time, and everything in between. There's just a lot of stuff here. And I'm going to leave everything at default here as I work. Again, if I need to make changes throughout this course, I will definitely let you guys know as I make those changes, so that way you can see how everything is affected. But for right now, I think we should be good to go. And the general area just covers basically general stuff that doesn't fall into any other category. Next is previews. If we click on this, this can affect how you preview your videos. Now, if your resources are limited, you may want to come in here and make some adjustments. As an example, when it comes to fast previews, you can do the adaptive resolution limit, which is at 1/8 right now. We click on this, we can adjust it to 1/16, 1/4, 1/2, and so forth. So you can really go in and make those changes if you need to. You can also click on your GPU information to get a more accurate representation of what's going on. You also have your viewer quality when it comes to zoom quality, color management quality, and you can go in there and choose if it's more accurate or if it's faster. Again, this all depends on your system requirements and what you're looking to get out of when it comes to After Effects. As a general rule, After Effects runs pretty slow, unless of course you have an incredibly powerful workstation environment. In that case, you probably won't run into many issues, but more often than not, you're going to see some slowdown here and there. And if that's becoming an issue and what you're doing in your workspace isn't helping, you can always come in here and make some adjustments if you wish. Display gives you display settings. As an example, we can set motion path, so we can not see motion path, or we can do no more than 15 seconds, or no more than a certain amount of keyframes if you want. We can disable thumbnails in the project panel. That can save, again, on resources. And you have basic stuff such as show both timecode and frames in the timeline panel. So again, just depends on what you want to do when you're working in After Effects. We have the import settings. So we can go in, as an example, let's say we have an image. We can choose to bring the image in at the length of the composition. So if you have a 30-second composition, you can choose right here that the image will automatically be set to 30 seconds of display time. Or you can choose to have a default custom time, such as 1 second if you want to check that on. And the sequence footage has to deal with bringing in a bunch of images at once. You can choose the default frame rate for that. And you have a bunch of other options here as well. Again, I'm going to leave this at default because if I go through each one, we'll be here for hours going through all the preferences. And you really have, at this point, no real base to go off of when it comes to all this. You don't know what this really does because we haven't dived into the meat of After Effects yet. So I'm just going to point things out here as we go along. Going to output, you can choose different output settings. There's grids and guides. You can choose the color of the grids if you want, or the guides. There's also safe margins. You can see right down there. We can go to labels. Here, we can choose what we want our labels to look like. As an example, by default, a composition is going to be sandstone colored. Video will be aqua, audio will be seafoam, and so on and so forth. Media and disk cache. This has to deal with performance when it comes to After Effects. As you render, you're going to cache different files, and you can choose a maximum disk cache size, which is set to 100 gigabytes right now. If things are slowing down, you can always empty your disk cache. This will, of course, reset all of your renders, but you can do so if you need to check things out and try to boost your performance. There's video preview, and this has to do with your video devices and your monitors. So you can go in and set this up. So if you want to display on a second monitor, you can by all means do that. And there's other options here. And this will also depend on your work setup as well. You'll probably have different hardware than me, so this might look a little bit different. Appearance, you can choose, for instance, use label color for label handles and paths, use label color for related tabs, and basically this all comes down to just how things are going to look when it comes to the interface. So you can come in here and you can toggle these on and off, and you can just see what it does for you as you're working. Of course, brightness is a big one. You can come in here and we could increase this all the way up like that, or go all the way down. I'll just put that back to default. Autosave, and I mentioned auto-saving before, but After Effects will try to save your project every 20 minutes. And again, you can bring this down or up depending on your needs. We could go all the way down to 1 minute, all the way up to whatever we want, but I'll leave it at the default at 20. Again, I advise you just save as often as you can. The shortcut key is your friend. Control S if you're on Windows, Command S if you're on Mac. Just get used to hitting that as often as you can, especially when you make big changes. That way, everything is saved as you work in case something were to happen. You have memory and multiprocessing, and this is interesting because you can calculate just how much RAM is being used for your Adobe software. Right now, I have 11 gigabytes of RAM reserved for After Effects, and I currently have 16 gig of RAM available to me, 5 of which is reserved for other applications. Now, you'll want to be careful with this because if you start adjusting this, and let's say you bring the RAM down for other applications to 0, let's say you just want to go full blown and you want all the RAM available for After Effects, you're going to have complications with your operating system because, of course, your operating system needs RAM to run. So do other background tasks. So make sure that you leave enough RAM available to other applications so you don't run into issues that you might not think of as you're working with After Effects or any Adobe software. You also have audio hardware. You can set your recording device if you wish, and I'm just using my Avid Fast Track Solo. This will all look different to you because I'm sure you'll have different equipment. You also have your audio output mapping right here. Again, it's outputting to my headset, which is the Avid Fast Track Solo, and you can go in and make those changes if you wish. You can come up here, you can see I have different things I can choose, but I'm just gonna go with that one. And we have sync settings, and this has to deal with your Creative Cloud account. Let's say you're working with After Effects on a different computer and you want to sync it to your After Effects here so all of your settings are the same. This is where you'd go in and do so, and you would choose just what you want to save if you want to. And you choose just what you want to sync up so that everything is good to go when you are ready to work. So that is a basic overview of the software preferences. Again, a lot of this can probably be left alone. However, if you do run into issues down the line and you need to make some changes, you can do so in this panel.